Welcome back to this channel to look at how to answer the AQA GCSE history questions for paper 1, Understanding the Modern World. This video is going to start to look at the knowledge questions. And this video is going to concentrate on the 12-mark question, which is the last question of this section. And it will always be a 2-factor question. So it's 12 marks, and it will look something like this. So this one, which of the following was the more important reason why there were more opportunities in America in the 1920s, economic growth or social changes? And the examiners expect you to write a paragraph about both of those bullet points and then come to a conclusion. So as we should all know by now, a 12-mark question means 3 paragraphs and means you want to spend about 15 minutes on it. So what they're looking for is for you to write 2 extensive peeled paragraphs and come to a justified conclusion between them. So, key part of the question. This question will always ask you to make a judgment about which was more important, and what they're asking you to think about is the idea of significance. And when you're judging significance, I always find it easier to think about significance in terms of how many, how long, and how big. So that's how many people were affected. Was it a lot? Was it a few? How long did the changes last for? Were they short or long term? And how big was the change? Did it transform the way things were done, or was it just an extension of how things were? And if we look at the mark scheme, to get into level 4, it wants an explanation of both bullet points, leading to a sustained judgment. So what that means is a paragraph on both, and then a detailed conclusion at the end. But the word I want to draw your attention to is this idea of complex. So a complex explanation of both bullet points. So what that means is you're not just thinking about importance in a single way, but going back to those ideas of how long, how big, and how many people were affected in order to judge significance. So in terms of structuring this then, for your paragraphs you want to have a point sentence, you want to include 2 to 3 examples, you want to then explain the impact that those examples have and make a judgment about how significant it is. And you should repeat that for bullet point 2. So start with the point, 2 or 3 examples of what it did, explaining the impact of them as you go along, and then making a judgment about how significant it was, thinking about how many, how long, and how big. And then for your conclusion, you want to make a clear judgment about which one of the 2 you think is most significant. You need to explain that judgment, and if you can, and this is to get to the top level skills, you want to make a direct comparison between them, which will allow you to show the examiner that you're able to make a clear judgment. And to make that direct comparison, again, think about how big, how many, and how long. So here's an example paragraph produced by the exam board. So to start with, you've got the point sentence that I've highlighted in yellow. It clearly links to the question by using the factor and then using the wording of the question in their sentence. The candidate then moves on to give you several examples, so talking about mass production, the assembly line, Ford Motor Industries, and how quickly they were able to produce cars as a result. They're then able to explain why this led to more opportunities, so giving people a good wage, allowing women to work, increasing their financial independence, and allowing them to buy consumer goods. And the reason it gets into level 4 is because of the judgment that I've highlighted in green. As a result of the new jobs, people were able to buy more stuff, which boosts the economy. The candidate clearly links back to the cycle of prosperity, that the boom created more jobs, which created more demand, which created more jobs, and it worked in a cyclical nature. So this quality of paragraph is what you want to produce if you want to be aiming for those top levels. So to finish off, I've got a couple of top tips. These come from the exam board and they tell you how they expect you to produce answers to get the top marks. So the first tip should be quite obvious. Cover both factors. It is essential that you have a paragraph on each factor if you want to get more than half marks in this question. But a number of candidates in the 2018 exam series didn't do that. So they missed out on simple marks, and that might be because they were scared of the language or they ran out of time. Make sure you don't do that. Number 2, use lots of examples. It's really, really simple. Revise really clearly and give yourself lots of examples in your armoury to use in exams. the more specific the better. So you're not saying things like Ford produced lots of cars, you're saying things like, because of the production line, Henry Ford was able to produce 1 Model T per minute. With that level of detail, you're showing the examiner that you have a great grasp of the knowledge. Then, once you've done that, you want to explain how your knowledge answers the question. So how did it create more opportunity? How did it improve the lives of African Americans or women? How did it help America to come out of the Depression? Whatever the question is, make sure your knowledge is specifically and clearly linked to it. Number 4, reach a judgment. Make sure you answer the question. The question will ask you to say which is the most important, so make sure you tell the examiner. And then finally, you want to justify your judgment. And the best way to do that is to compare either how many people your factors helped, how long the impact of the factors was, or how big the change they caused was. And that's the best way to show the examiner you've directly compared them, and that's what will get you into level 4. I hope you found this video useful. Keep checking back in my channel for more videos on exam technique. Thanks very much.